Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another photo mishmash. This one being broadcast live April 15th, 2020. And once again, I am so very lucky to be joined by my good friends and fellow co-hosts on this show, David Carr and Steve. David Carr, how are you doing?
How you doing? I'm well. You know, the weather has been amazing here in Georgia. Oh, look at that. I got my sound on again. I did this again.
Blame it on Steve, who I just apparently introduced without a last name. I don't know why. Okay. You got your last name, but Steve didn't.
I got my last name. Anyway, the weather's been amazing. So that's been nice, you know, to get out and just enjoy that. It makes life feel a little more normal. So, but yeah, I mean, I've been a little bit stir crazy, and you know, some days I feel a little more delirious about this whole thing, and other days I'm like, yeah. We'll just keep trucking on.
You we'll check in with you about some photo stuff a little bit later, but sure. You baked an epic cake a few days ago.
Yeah.
Chris pulled that pic. I don't know how quickly I could pull that up. But Chris was like, is this the picture from the recipe, or did he actually make that? And I was like, well, he posted it. I think he made it. She's
like, I made it. Yes, I made it, and I took the photo. But the actual, I don't remember where I found this recipe. I don't make cakes. Really, I make cheesecakes, but it's been a long time since I've done that. But I just saw this cake and I was like, I want that, and I'm gonna make it. So I did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, it turned out really, really good. I was very impressed. With the, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Nice.
Did my best.
Nice. And you go back on David Carr's feed a little bit, and then you are like doing home improvements. I mean, you're already married, but you're a total catch.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. No, you know what? It's really, I don't know. I started doing things myself. Well, when we bought our first home, I was so excited because I knew I could finally do, like, I always wanted to like tear into a wall and like fix plumbing. I don't know why. I just love that. And so I just developed some skills over the years. And so I kind of, the hard thing is I want to tackle everything, and I can't. I mean, that's unrealistic, but it's so hard for me to.
Well, that's important to know your limits, especially when you're talking about things like plumbing and electrical.
Yeah, plumbing I'm pretty confident with. I've built 2 bathrooms in this house, like remodeled one and then built one in our basement, and nothing's leaked yet in 3 years. But electrical, I will take it so far. If I have to open the circuit breaker panel box, nope.
Yeah,
I'm not even going near it. I'm afraid it will suck me into it and just electrocute me. So.
You know, I have none of those skills, and maybe it's because of the color of the cocktails I drink. I don't know. But let me just pass it on to Steve, who's wearing a manly hat, so that makes him 10 times manlier than me as well. Steve, how are you doing? You've completed any puzzles lately?
No. We did our Bob Ross puzzle, and I told you guys about how I just obsessed over that and kind of did it without my wife, without us doing it together, and that got me in trouble. So I'm banned from shopping for puzzles now. I think she's afraid to buy a puzzle because I won't have any say on it, but that doesn't really matter. Once it arrives and we open it up, I'll just obsess and start building it no matter what it is. So no puzzles lately. Have not opened up any circuit breakers or gotten myself electrocuted.
That's good.
Yeah. Just
always good when you don't electrocute yourself. That makes for a better
job.
day.
Well done.
Yeah. There's some comments about my hat today. This is one of my favorite flat caps here, but the reality is Carr has had his going. He's been sporting his for the last couple of days. For those of you that are on his Facebook Live show and watching his latest video on how he edits, and he showed up today and he was wearing it. I knew that was going to happen, so I brought a baseball cap down just in case. But you took that thing off, said you were happy with your do, and you're going hatless.
You know, some days it's a matter of covering up the receding hairline, and other days I'm like, whatever. So
see, I thought it would have been cool for all 3 of us to be sporting.
I think we should do that. We should.
As I was telling you guys, I owned one for a period of time, but maybe I'll own one again. I'm worried if this quarantine keeps going on, people are going to figure out I'm not actually blonde. I can't get my hair dye. I mean,
oh gosh, yeah,
you're not a natural blonde, huh?
No, not a natural blonde. I just act like one.
Yeah. So. Speaking of which, what are you thinking there, Toby?
What's that?
Speaking of which, what are you drinking there, Toby?
So, well, you guys started a little bit of a tradition last week, I feel like, or maybe 2 weeks ago, you were drinking. I mean, in fairness, I don't pay you anything for the show, so you got to have some kind of perks to get through it. Right. I thought I'd join you last week and just drank my standard gin and tonic. Very good. But Chris, you know, she's capable of making some really good drinks. I said, make me something a little different. So she came downstairs with this Cosmo. I don't know what's in it. Tell me what's in a Cosmo.
Cosmo should be vodka, cranberry juice, and I don't know if she put any dry vermouth in there. She made it like a martini.
It's a little dry. So that brings up a funny story. I'll ask you what you guys are drinking in just a minute, but just so you all know, I really paint a great picture of myself early on. I'm terrible at like housework. I have no idea about alcohol. So last night I come upstairs.
For a manly man, it's Toby.
Yeah. I come upstairs and Chris is on the couch. She said, "Oh, can you get me another glass of wine?" I knew she was drinking white. Went to the fridge, and this bottle was laying down. Pulled it out. Poured a big. I wasn't paying attention. I'm never paying attention to what I'm doing. And I poured a gigantic glass of wine, and I took it in there. And I said, "Here you go." And she looked at it and she's like, "This is gigantic. You drink some first." So I drank some, you know, just to help her out. And I was like, "This is really sweet wine. You like this?" She doesn't like her wines too sweet. And then she took it and she's like, "Where did you get this wine?" I was like, "From the fridge where you told me to." Well, apparently I had just picked up the bottle of vermouth that was in the fridge. And someplace else in the fridge was a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
So she was just drinking straight up vermouth. Wow.
We were drinking straight up. At first, she was like, "I don't even think there's any alcohol in there," but I was feeling a little funny.
Yeah, there's a little bit.
Yeah,
that's about 18%.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's about 40% alcohol. I mean, you can put that over ice as like an aperitif or something.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's quite sweet. I wouldn't want to drink as much as I did last night.
Yeah.
In retrospect.
Well, not on a regular basis.
Yeah. What do you got going on there, Carr?
Well, so Steve, when you visited me last year, you turned me onto this gin gimlet. So gin, lime juice, a little bit of simple syrup, and I've got a lime wedge in there, or lime slice, but you can't really. Well, you can see it. Yeah. It's tasty.
That sounds quite good. That sounds quite good. It sounds like I'd like it.
Gimlet. Yeah, it's like you could do a lemonade stand with this, but kind of for adults.
Yeah, they are dangerous. If you're not a gin fan, just have a gimlet and you'll become a gin fan.
Oh yeah.
You can suck those things down pretty fast, so you got to be careful with them. They are very good though.
Tasty.
Yeah.
And you, Steve, what are you drinking?
Well, Brian commented he's got pink drinks. Hurry up and throw up a picture of a bear. I quickly read it and said a picture of a beer.
Oh, there you go.
So
very nice.
I actually was going to go drinkless. I had my hydro flask of water here, and I saw that Toby had a cocktail, and I rushed out to the garage fridge and grabbed a beer. So
well, I wasn't gonna show my cards unless somebody else did. So I was gonna have this sitting here, but I didn't want to be the only one. So I was like, if somebody else brings it up, then I'll be like, "Oh yeah, look what I have." So.
Yeah, we usually talk about it ahead of time, but that didn't happen tonight.
No, I kind of was embarrassed to text you about that, Steve. I didn't want to be like again. So
well, we should just have a standing order while we're in quarantine, because I like the picture of the coffee cup handing the baton to the wine glass. That's basically like every day.
Yeah, every day. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I did go for a run this morning, and I mentioned that because people are sleeping in late. Not only are most people staying home, but it is at 8 a.m. The streets here are still just dead quiet.
Wow.
Occasional dog walker here and there, but it is just remarkable how quiet it is.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So definitely less coffee, I think, are coursing through people's veins, and a lot more wine. And,
I think
and sometimes vermouth. Despite our chatter at the beginning, this is not just a show about what we're drinking this day or what we're putting on our heads, but this is a kind of a photo mishmash of different topics that we like to discuss. And as I started to put today's news together, I was like, well, there's not a whole lot. We'll have some fun discussions. But then I found a couple of stories and also some follow-ups on other things we've discussed in the past, including this one woman's photography. I mean, hey, I was all proud of my light painting last week that I showed. And then I see this one woman's Instagram of what she's doing at home with around the home stuff. And it just makes me weep a little. It's just amazing. So we're going to get to all of that. And I want to welcome the chat room. Thank you so much for joining us live and hanging in there for our alcohol chit chat and all of those things.
Yeah.
The other part. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was trying to come up with some play on words with like sour mash whiskey and Mish mash. You could probably we could do sort of a little,
Yeah. That's your neck of the woods there, David Carr. You're down there.
It is, yeah.
Right behind your house. You probably got some stills going.
Well, yeah. There's no telling what's back there.
I know that Wyatt built a pretty killer fort back there at one point. So.
He did.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Let's catch up on stuff that's happened around our channels and our social medias and our lives in the last couple of since we last had this show, really. David, you've been putting out a series of how you edit videos, and you had a new one that just went out today. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this one, I will say, went much more smoothly with the editing. I figured out what was wrong with my video editing software. So I'm proud to release this one. And it's a photo that we took on the Joshua Tree trip last year with McKay Photography Academy. It was a really underexposed photo. Like when you see the raw photo that I pull up at the beginning, it's one of those like, well, we just got to move on because we can't use that. But I bring it to life and just want to show people that, just because it's too dark, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's useless. There's noise, it's not perfect because I underexposed it, but I wanted to show that you don't have to always throw it away just because it doesn't look amazing straight out of camera.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Nice. Good. That's linked right down below in the show notes, along with David Carr's Instagram and, of course, Steve Scurich's Facebook page. And I think I got your Instagram link down there too, Steve. If not, I'll make sure I put it down there. So you can give these guys a follow to keep up with all of their social media happenings, which in my case hasn't, honestly, I've been busy on YouTube with doing the live workshops. The most recent one last night was kind of part 2 of Lightroom workshop. I had a lot of fun with that as well. And I'll be back with more. That's linked right down below. And that includes a new handout where I really go in depth into the kind of local area adjustment tools handout still on the desk.
That's great.
So you can check that out. But I haven't been too active on Instagram, and we're going to hit on a couple of news stories that I think might give me some reason to go back or maybe stay far away from. So we'll hit those in a minute as well.
Yeah.
All kinds of things. Yeah. Steve, what you got anything else going on in your life?
What have I got going on? I did post the other day to Facebook professional page and my Instagram. So it's the first Instagram post in weeks, if not a month. I hate to admit that. But I did do that. Just kind of sat down and got inspired to work up a photo from Yellowstone, Firehole Falls in Yellowstone, black and white, and that was a lot of fun. Spent quite a bit of time with that one.
Cool.
What else? No, not a whole lot going on. A lot of time with the kids. We had Easter last weekend.
Yes.
Which, I don't know about you guys, but that's always a really big deal around my household. So it was a little different this year. Obviously, we couldn't go off to church, but we, kind of watched the service in our living room, and we had family over. We did a breakfast and a huge Easter egg hunt. We had over 300 plastic eggs hidden with candy inside, and 6 golden eggs that had bigger pieces of candy and a little bit of change and money and stuff in them.
Fun.
So that was just awesome. We had an absolutely incredible time on Easter Sunday with the family. We've got this little family bubble going on. My grandkids, as some of you know, live 4 doors down the street from us, so we get to see them.
That's great.
That's nice. Yep. Without going into like the religious side of things, I'm not very religious, but I really recognize the power of Easter. And James Champion, who is a longtime follower and kind of friend of this channel, posted something to the Penn group that he actually asked me if it was okay to post. I said it was, as long as people knew that he had permission to do that. He put together drone footage of the churches, mostly parking lots, but inside a couple of the churches where they were doing a special service with the pastor and presenting to a camera. And the empty parking lots and kind of the dawn light on that Sunday, along with somebody reading, I think, some scripture. It was really well done, I felt like. And we had talked a little bit last week about how he has gotten permission from his local authorities to kind of document time. And I thought that that was a really, really neat and pretty powerful way of doing that.
That's really powerful. Wow.
It was an interesting service. We attend a really large church, so they've got, a lot of good production quality and stuff like that. So they had done this whole series in Israel, and they were kind of finishing that up right on Easter Sunday. So it was really cool the way they put that all together. And we hadn't watched any of their video services before, but this was really well done. It was quite an emotional day, just knowing that all the churches around the country were closed and empty like that. And I think seeing footage like that, I mean, whether you're religious or not, it's just, it's something that is a big deal on Easter Sunday, obviously. And to see it just completely empty it was just a very, very different sort of celebration, if you will. And an emotional one for us. But it was a really special day. It was, in fact, I would say probably one of the best Easter celebrations I've ever had.
That's great.
That's cool. Yeah.
Awesome. We're in kind of a vulnerable position right now. It was just a powerful time for us. So it was good.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I think that, no, I know what else I wanted to mention. Well, first off, David posted this, I think, publicly on his Facebook. David and Allie both have COVID-19. And are for the most part doing all right, but David is kind of a gift this weekend, gave away his fine art photography book. He actually already gave away his books that teach you photography. This is his work condensed. I meant to bring it downstairs. I have an actual physical copy, but all Penn members got emailed the ebook version of this. It's a couple hundred pages of gorgeous photography. This was something that he was planning on selling as a, kind of an inspirational and beautiful coffee table book. And he just decided to give it away, which I think was just awesome. David Carr, you've got his educational books.
Yes. Oh, this is, I've got this one. This is not the one you're talking about then. Okay.
Yeah, no. Chris, I don't know if you're still listening upstairs or not. If do you know where that is? It's sitting should be right on the kids' desk in the kids' room. If you could bring that to me in a minute, that would be great. But otherwise, don't worry.
Yeah, email has a free download for it. And I actually, in his video message, he said, because of copyright and all the work that he's put into this, and he's going to sell copies of it, he started out saying, please don't forward this outside. That's a gift to the Penn members.
Yeah.
But then he did kind of follow it up and say, if there's somebody special in your life that you think would really be inspired by this right now, send it along, which I did. I have a good friend of mine, and I sent that over to him, and it's awesome. It's really cool. In fact, it really kind of inspired me to want to make a photography book. I've been doing for a long time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. So it's the real deal. And just, you can see that it's actually pretty thick. And just filled
like he uses
with really gorgeous photographs.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. Just awesome that he shared that with everybody. I think David does amazing black and whites, and he's got some of his gorgeous black and whites in here as well. So if you're a Penn member, check your email for that. And if you didn't see it, let us know. We'll figure out how to get it to you, or we'll get it to you soon. And we wish them both, happy healing and rapid healing from this. Yeah.
Well, and I'd like to just reach out to all of our members, prayers, good thoughts, whatever you want for both of them, but especially David right now. Allie did give an update right before the show started that they were taking him into the ER because he was having trouble breathing last night. So they're getting his lungs checked out really as we speak right now. So just keep them in your thoughts and prayers for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. So, well, let's move on from that point. Or actually, one other thing, as part of that kind of gift and giving, we've been doing the Groupon discount for Penn for a while now. We're going to just bypass Groupon for this period of time and make it much easier for you. Go direct to Penn, and we're offering that 75% discount for new members for a year subscription. So you can just go to fotodirect.tv/Penn is still the easiest way that we'll get there. So you can take a look at that. And also just kind of mention, I haven't said this show sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace has reached out to, I think, everybody, not just me, and said, hey, with your live videos, we don't want to sponsor those right now because you might say something stupid about the current situation with Corona. You might share something that's not real or not fact, and we don't want to be part of that, which I really appreciate. I appreciate a company saying, we want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. So any videos that I say sponsored by Squarespace, I have to pass in for approval first, so they can say, yeah, I got the stamp of approval. So I just think that's a good way to handle business.
I think it is. I'm just so frustrated with the amount of fake news that really is just circling around. I mean, it's just, and everything's so contradictory, and everything seems so substantiated, but it's not. This can't be true while this is true, and they completely aren't, not even in line with one another. And so hats off to them for really keeping a check on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I have to say something. I just say, if it's a scientist who is dedicated their life to this, they're in your best interest. They have no ulterior motives, people.
Right.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yep. There you go.
All right, let's dive into the show where we are helpful beyond giving you recipes. 90% of you have better recipes for alcohol than I do. But let's dive into the part of the show where we look at your images that you've submitted to us in Lightroom and give you some tips and tricks for improving those. So I was a little ahead of the game sharing my screen, and now I have to go back and share the whole screen. Here we go. All right, so I've pulled up a couple of images that we're going to work on today, and we've got some new names in the mix, which I love seeing. And if you're watching this and you're not a pen member who has submitted an image in the past, I still have those on my to-do list. I will get to them at some point.
But this image, this is a pen member. Where did I see this? Was it option 1 on the chat room a while back?
I'm not sure. I did give them. Did you look in that Dropbox a few moments ago when I gave you guys the link?
I didn't have time to look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw it briefly.
There, the image competition. I love this picture. I just who submitted this?
This is from Lynn. Lynn Sakai is how I'm going to pronounce that last name. No. Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it a lot too. I think these are birches or aspens, and those white against the green and yellows are just so pretty. What do we think? And I know, guys, it's a little bit harder for you to see. What do we think? We've got a trunk kind of coming in just at the edge here with a little bit showing through, and same on the right as well. What happens? Those bother me. On one hand, I think you could argue that they're in a way framing the image, but with the other little glimpses, I wonder if we can simplify a little bit more.
Yeah.
What do we think? Are we losing too much there?
I don't think so. And what I like is that it took a little bit of the top out as well, because I felt like there was maybe a little too much sky coming in at the top. I was going to have you come down anyway. So I don't know. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I can't remember, Lynn, when we were talking about this virtually on the Facebook site a while back when you posted it, if I had said crop that out, or I probably said leave half of it in there on the far left side, because I do that a lot with real estate, which is kind of that technique has lended itself to my landscape photography when there's stuff in the foreground. But I think it goes either way. There's a little bit of blue in that upper right corner.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, I'd be interested in seeing, definitely kind of crop that down. I love the color of this image. It would be cool to see it as a black and white, which would require different type of processing. And I only say that mainly because the bright sky in the background, although it's kind of clouded out, and then you have to really boost the contrast and everything. I don't know. I think I like it better in color. It's awfully cluttery as a black and white.
I agree. And the color is so, like you said, Toby, it's very beautiful. It's like the colors complement each other really well.
Complementary. Exactly. Yep.
Which is funny because nature, that's what nature, I mean, essentially any photograph taken in nature, the colors should complement each other because it's nature, but they don't really always complement each other for a photograph. So this looks nice.
Yeah, so, nature's not always on board with our plans there.
Pam Case is saying flip it, and I know that's become a pretty funny joke here with me because I'm always flipping photographs. But honestly, I think, Lynn, you're in the chat room. Correct me if I'm wrong. I had mentioned that it should be flipped, and I think this is the flipped version with the larger trees in the left. I could be wrong, But I remember this one getting flipped at some point, and it played better having the larger trees in the front that kind of created this line that went out. So yeah, she says it is flipped. So
okay.
Pam, this is the flip version, and I'm glad that we got to see it this way first, because it didn't even cross my mind to flip it when I saw it the first time a while back. I do remember you had those lighter trees on the left, and flipping it around made it a little stronger, but that always looks weird when you first do it.
Yeah, let's flip it real quick so people can see, and then I'll talk about what I was working on while you were blabbing. Let's see here, flip horizontal. Yeah, I liked it better.
Yeah, I like it. Now this is the way it was taken. Yeah, the way it was submitted by Lynn was flipped, and I do like this better.
This trio of bigger trees just anchor. It's just a really lovely anchor point. Yeah. So real quick, I threw brush strokes on each of these, and I used Steve's tip of clicking once, holding down shift, clicking again, and it will draw a straight line. These trunks are almost all straight. And so if I hit O, you can see that that's where I painted. I should paint on a few more, but you get the idea. I just brightened them a touch and reduced the saturation. I just really want that clean white cast from the trunks to stand against these colors. There isn't a ton of color to them. I mean, you could see, but just enough that I think they look a little bit cleaner.
Yeah.
That's really all I got beyond the other cropping suggestions you guys made.
Toby,
nice.
One last crop that I just want to see. I don't know if it's going to strengthen the image or completely screw it up, but go to freeform crop and just take the top line and come all the way down below the sky.
Really?
Yeah, just right there. I just want to kind of see it more as a horizontal. There's just not quite enough going on, but see when you cut the brightness out of there, then all of a sudden the brightness of the tree trunks stands out even more.
Yeah. It looks pretty nice there too. It works, and yeah, there's definitely lots of places to crop from there. Yeah, cool. Nice shot, Lynn. Thank you. Let's move on to another tree trunk and not a tree trunk, fuzzy bison in winter Yellowstone from Brian.
There's a bison growing a tree.
Why do I have? I'm not sure why I have two. There is a bison growing out of the tree. It's, you know what it is? It's one of those knots on a tree that just happens to look a lot like a bison.
Yeah,
we're always like faces and stuff. Like, I see a face in that tree trunk. Well, this time it's a bison.
This is macro photography at its best, Brian. Well done.
I don't know about. Oh, and it's cropped in already. You know, I have some similar pictures. Brian and I were on this trip together. And Steve, you were too. I have some similar pictures, and I think I ended up not really doing much with any of the ones where they're moving in among the trunks or intersecting the trunks, because it just, I don't know. Do you guys have, do you have?
The colors are so similar. I would definitely go into Photoshop and fill in that lower right. So the trunk is like all the way down. And then, of course, I got to say, I would probably flip it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that would do.
All right, let's flip this real quick. Oh, yeah, I think that's stronger.
I mean, that does put the subject of the story more in that. You know, your eye has to travel to get to it. It doesn't just hit that, and then you see this growth of a tree coming out of the bison's butt.
Yeah, it's a good point. It really, I think, like you said, what you're doing there, cloning that tree, kind of just completing it down to the bottom. I mean, it's tricky when you have a tree in a shot that could be competing for the attention. I mean, one of my favorite photos is of this mountain lion at Animals of Montana, and it's up on this tree stump, and I love the photo, but I had several people, when I first showed it to people, they would say, well, what is that? What is that? What's it on? I was like, oh, it's a tree stump. But the colors were so similar to the colors in the mountain lion that I had to go in and really try to differentiate them. So it's tricky. Yeah.
Roy had a good suggestion. He mentioned darkening the tree to create a contrast between it.
That's
a good idea.
Yeah. And Tanya mentioned that she's just kind of impressed that you could do that cloning there that I did in this. And I'll say I mostly do that just because I'm trying to keep our, movement through these images rather quick. Yes, it did an okay job. But again, at that level, I'd move to Photoshop as well.
Yeah, anything I do to fix a photograph.
Yeah. What's interesting is how this graduated filter now kind of fights against that local area adjustment.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Or the cloning bit. But yeah, darkening there, I think that is a good suggestion.
Yeah.
We even brought the saturation down as well a little bit.
Yeah. Brian said he can't decide if he likes it or hates it. I think that's a little extreme. I know Brian's work. I know what he's capable of. He takes just some incredible pictures. He's one of the top winning photographers that we always have in our image competitions. You know, I think it's an interesting shot, but for him, I think, you know, I've seen a lot of better stuff that he's done in terms of not just competition, but I mean, he's just got a great artistic eye. This one's just okay for me.
All right, we're going to move on. We got Eric Anderson's. I've just noticed somehow I duplicated every single one of these images. Eric Anderson's, this is called Liffey Falls, Tasmania. I'm ready to go there. How about you guys?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. This has a feel to it of probably being edited, I suspect, but not enough that I'm like, oh, this has been edited. It just has this a little bit of this magical feel to it, and I think that there's a lot to love here.
Yeah, you know, to me, like this is I've said this before, and I don't know if I get the point across well when I say it, but some images just right out of the gate look almost like they're just finished. Like they just look done to me. And it doesn't mean there aren't things we could tweak and fix, but it's not like we're trying to polish something that's just not great. It's not like we're trying to make something great out of something that isn't already great. This is one of those images that just, if this was just hanging on the wall, you know, in some hotel or something, or in a gallery, let's say, I probably wouldn't nitpick it. I'd probably be like, oh, look at that beautiful photo, you know? So if that makes sense, I think some images are just there. And then it's just a matter of, there might be a highlight on that side, you know, on the bottom right, there might be that branch coming down from the top. You could get rid of it. You could leave it. It's sort of a give or take, because there's so much else working for the photo.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it, but
yeah, I totally agree, Carr. So just to clarify, Toby, before you did some of that filter right there, the way this was presented to us, was it unedited? Was it raw or straight out of camera?
No, I don't believe so. It's a JPEG. I don't know, but I
mean, this is just killer. I love the tones. It has
it's incredible.
Such a three-dimensional feel to it.
Yes,
and this is actually one of the things that you look at. I almost was thinking, was this taken with a medium format or something? Because a lot of times you get that ethereal sort of.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's probably just the scene. It looks like, is it a Nikon?
What does it tell us?
It's probably a Nikon. I mean, if it's that good of a photo, it's a Nikon.
Hold on, I skip forward. Oh, sorry guys, a Sony, same Sony I own. That's why.
You know, they do
what it is
for most Nikons. So
they do make the sensor. So
they are just as good as a medium format.
We're only 1 degree separated here. So
both apples and oranges. I wish I was seeing a little bit more of the bottom, a little bit more of the river. I do like the way it was finished off, and that bright area up there is just stunning. I'd probably go into Photoshop and remove the dark branches that are coming out from the right side, but I absolutely leave those mossy big branches in there. I mean,
they give it a flow. It's you know, the other thing about this photo too is you're not really seeing the sky. I mean, there might be little bits and pieces of it here and there, but you know, so often in these types of photos, we're fighting that sky, and a lot of times people are trying to make it work with a really bright sky in the background, and a lot of times it's a real distraction. So the beautiful thing about this is it's kind of solid, you know, it's just almost like it's all filled with color and texture, and I love that.
Yeah. So I mean, folks saw, but I just threw a linear gradient graduated filter across the bottom, just to brighten, to bring in a little bit more of that. And that's really it. Very nice. Good. All right, we're going to move on. Kevin Walk has a little closer to home, not Tasmania, but you know, in some ways has that similar feel with this nice little flow of water and this lovely greens. What do we think here?
So the scene to me, I mean, first of all, the far right is a shade of wood next to the frame on the far right, about halfway up, that is not really found much throughout the photograph. And then I'm getting really distracted by that tree in the foreground, the knotted up, tree that we have there. And then the waterfall is getting lost as a result. So I would, there's just a lot going on. It's a totally beautiful scene. It's really, but it's a lot to look at, and I'm having trouble really focusing in on the emotion that can come from such a beautiful waterfall. I'm kind of getting frustrated because I want my eyes to just be fixated there, but they keep bouncing around to a fallen tree in a different shade and stuff.
Yeah. And one of the things, I'm just going to call it out. I linked to the Sony, photo awards for 2020 are linked down in the show notes, which the show notes are all linked right down below this video. Actually, I don't know if I put the link there yet. I will. One of the things I noticed going through all of those is the photos that won are just so incredibly simple. They have so little going on. There is your subject. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So, and I'm struggling with kind of finding a crop that helps, because we do this and these bright diagonal logs really draw my eye away. We could come in, and then I almost feel like we're so tight. Although maybe.
Well, somebody just mentioned going vertical. I think it was Andrew talked about doing a vertical just over on the fall.
Somewhere around there.
Part of the reason that when you see a photograph that is simple and unapologetic of what the story is, and it's well done, that the reason that that's so appealing to us is everybody out there is running around with a smartphone or a quick point and shoot, and they're just taking snapshots, which try to include as much as possible. But the photographer, when you can look through that lens and you can isolate your subject and tell the story with that in an unapologetic way, it's a very, very powerful thing. I'm not saying you should do that all the time, but just keep in mind when you're out there shooting, take a certain slice of an overall beautiful scene, and it can become a little bit more powerful. And because it's different, you're scrolling through Facebook and you're seeing snapshot after snapshot, and then all of a sudden you see this crazy waterfall that was, long exposure or something like this, and it's just striking.
Just kind of playing devil's advocate on this, like the full version, there is a lot going on, and I think everything you guys are saying is true. But then I just go, well, I wonder if what he's wanting to show here is just kind of like, this was all the stuff I was seeing, And so maybe, maybe in some photos, I know I have a few photos myself that are probably not as dialed in on one thing. There's kind of like a lot going on. And I don't know that I would submit those to competitions or, for certain things, but when all the other elements are at least they're exposed well and the color is working, as far as like, it's not, the white balance isn't off and there's not some crazy distraction, like some ugly thing in the corner. Like when all of that stuff is not there, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I can go with it being a little bit busy as long as it's still executed well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally does. In fact, I like those when you cropped out that dead tree and you had the two live ones diagonally in the corner.
Because those are really interesting looking trees. With moss. So I know they do take your eye away from the waterfall. So maybe this is a case for like, well, I'm not really just showing the waterfall. I'm kind of showing this whole scene that had a waterfall.
But now I gotta say it, Toby, with that horizontal crop that you had there with the waterfall and those two trees in there, and you've got that other tree that's just poking through with that odd color, but you can darken that down. I want to see it flipped around. I don't know how famous this place is, so people might notice. I don't know. It always looks so weird after you've been looking at it for a while.
Yeah.
For those who are new to us, you're supposed to take a drink every time Steve tells us to flip an image.
It's kind of a window into the way I edit, though, too. Like sometimes I just see it. I'll take a shot knowing that I'm going to flip it.
Yeah.
But sometimes I will look at a scene and see how it came in, and use the crop to really tell the story, and then I end up flipping images all the time, so long as I can get away with it. It's not some.
Yeah, well, and it doesn't hurt to try it, you know. I mean, that's one of the things. Like, so in these videos I'm doing on YouTube, there's a lot of trial and error. I'm trying things and going like, oh, what if I do this? And then I'm like, no, that doesn't look good at all, you know. And I'm talking myself out of these because you just got to try it, you know. It's and like you know, like we say, there's some caveats. If it's Mount Rushmore or something that's really like that has text on it, like don't flip that. But like, yeah, I mean, in certain situations, it might look stronger. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, we're going to move on. Beth's got this image in here. We'll make some quick comments about it. But Beth, I just wanted to let you know that it's pretty small when viewed at its actual size. So Lightroom is helpfully by fitting it, blowing us up. But this looks like from your Mongolia trip, and I think this is a really nice portrait.
Is it Beth Connington?
Yes, it is. It's Beth Connington.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, just the way it is.
I know.
I might darken the background to make the subject pop out a little bit more. But
I don't see a whole lot of anything that I'm like, I wish this was this way or that way. You could. I don't want to say oversaturate it, but really making sure the colors are spot on and have enough vibrance to them. Which I think they do. But you know, sometimes when you've got that much color and they're already such vivid, saturated colors in the attire, just really maximizing on that, and the skin tone is. I think you've got a pretty nice thing going there. So
I would consider painting on a little bit of more of a red tint on the skin tone, though. It's got a slight green.
I was kind of thinking that. I couldn't tell if that was my own, just like my monitor, but
yeah, it just looks a little.
So sorry. Hold on. There we go.
Very subtle. Yeah.
Off. Yeah.
Gorgeous though. I mean,
very, very nice. Very nice. Yep. All right. But make sure, Beth, in the future, I'd love to see more of your work, but make sure it is at a size that we can get in and pick at it a little bit more. This one I brought in for two reasons. One, I think it's an interesting black and white, but two, when you look at it at the big version, I don't think you necessarily notice this issue as much as when you look up here to the little thumbnail. And it just points out why I so often check in on the thumbnail side. You can really see that through editing, or maybe this was captured at HDR, and then you just got this brighter halo around, I think this is Cannon Rock or Cannon Beach.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, which is a beautiful spot. And I think there's a lot to like about this, but you just want to really watch for that. If it's going to be on Instagram or social media viewed at a smaller size, that editing can be quite noticeable. So this is.
I forget the positioning there. I think I've been here with you before, Toby, but the sun wouldn't be going down over there. It'd be over to the right, wouldn't it?
Probably not that far south, because this view is a very southwest view is my memory too. Yeah.
You could have the sun, behind the rock that would definitely create that, but it just looks awkward if the sun is, setting in the west, which would be to the right. The way you look at the photograph, it looks strange. So my apologies if that's actually what's going on. It's creating the haze. But to Toby's point, you do notice it if you look at the navigator in the upper left, you really can see that banding around there.
True. Yeah.
And if that was done as a result of editing, then that definitely needs to be repaired.
Yeah. I think, what you were going for here is not only the scene, but the fact that somebody's ridden their bike right out to the edge of the waves, which is just kind of a cool and unique thing. And it gives a nice sense of scale to this scene. I threw on a linear graduated filter that just ups the texture and clarity. So it really makes that reflection or the bits of reflection shine. And this is one of those spots where you might want to even get down a little bit lower. And that's going to put the bike in a little bit more of a prominent position. You've got room. I'd still keep them within the dark, so you don't want to get too low, but that's going to put them up a little bit more and make them a little more prominent in this shot. Yeah. Cool. All right, Robert, thank you for submitting. And we're going to move on to Tanya's.
Wow.
Who's in the middle of our couch series. And Tanya, we've given you shout outs before. The series is fantastic. You can find her on Instagram as she's gone through a bunch of different style pictures, all based around this couch.
Wow.
Yeah. That looks painful.
And I don't know. She also submitted she submitted the images that she worked from. Do we want to look at that right now, or do we want to wait on a minute?
I don't know.
I don't know either. That's why I asked.
Sorry, what was the question there, Toby? I was kind of listening. The images she worked from.
That's right. She submitted the next image in the series is a shot of all of the different images that she used for this composite.
Oh, I'd be kind of curious just to glance at them.
Okay, let's take a look. Steve made the decision. So original up top, and then down. Can I make that bigger? I should be able to. Down below, we have our individual images. So she didn't. I'm disappointed, Tanya. You didn't actually have hot wax dripping on your shoulder. But pretty cool. What I love, and so immediately, I know that this was a composite because Tanya does those, and so I immediately started searching this image for any signs, and I can kind of see that these two flame effects are similar, but
yeah, I noticed that. That's the only thing I noticed. Yeah.
Otherwise, it all looks different and realistic. Mm-hmm. The only other comment that I would make is the smoke does feel a bit digital. I don't know if you could get your hands on a smoke machine in the future so that there's some kind of more of the realistic smoke in there. I also know, I think you've been doing like one of these a day. So your production schedule is a little fast paced or is fast paced. So, and then maybe just darkening parts of the couch that are on fire or near that as if they had already burned might be interesting as well.
Yeah, I think they're, I remember seeing a post or something when she was doing this. I think they're torn in those places.
Okay.
Darkening it, to your point, is a good way to go because it would be, really kind of black, chalk around that. Yeah. I don't think I'm too wild about the candles coming right off of her left shoulder or right as you're looking at the image. It looks like they're just kind of growing out of the shoulder and right next to the head. And I want to focus on the human aspect of it. And that's just, my eye is constantly getting darted over to the right to see, is her hair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right with the, you immediately, as soon as you notice that those flames are identical, you can't stop looking at them. So you got to be very, very, and that's a great Photoshop lesson, or that's a Photoshop thing. But
and it's an easy fix. Even if you kept things the way they are and just used a liquefy tool or something to kind of just turn some of those flames a little bit and just make them look different, I think that would help. There's a pretty cool thing happening with the light, of course. Obviously she shoots this stuff in some sort of a studio environment, and it's hard for me to explain, but there's a really cool, like, just in her face and then her dress and everything, there's a great tonality thing happening, and all of the focus is there. Really, I mean, you can look at all the other elements, but she did a good job of making her face the focus. You look right at her. I agree about the candles on the shoulder though. But that's such a key thing, especially with any kind of portraiture, is bringing the eyes straight to the eyes of the person in the portrait. It's very important that you bring your viewer into that.
Yeah, and I should say, I do love this whole couch series she has going on.
Yeah.
I saw today, I think it was today, where she posted the yellow and purple. I think it was yellow and purple, but where she's on two different positions on the couch, and that's really cool. My favorite still is the black and red one, though, where she's looking at the always on the phone image.
Oh yeah,
I just think that picture is just really cool in this series.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you, Tanya. Brian said, I was trying to get on the StreamYard over here so I could put Brian's comment up, but Brian said Toby would like you to set the couch on fire actually next time. No, that's not true.
Outside.
Yeah. No, I just kidding. Okay. Pam did a spirograph, so I just wanted to give a shout out for somebody following along from the pen tutorials. We've had actually a couple of people post their results from this, and Pam, you did a nice job here. The first thing that jumps out at me after kind of taking in your nice spirograph is the bits of noise in the dark area. So I thought this was a great image to kind of come down into the detail section. Noise reduction is set to 0 by default in this latest version of Lightroom. And I can just drag this to the right, and it's going to start to reduce that noise. And I have to go pretty far, but in this image,
you can get away with it with this type of photography.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yep. And so, boom, now we have this kind of clean black background with these sharp little lines in here.
Mm-hmm.
Is that on my monitor? And there's a little speck of something right there that I would take out.
I'd be curious to see this cropped, come in really tight and fill the frame with the whole design. Even if you have to cut parts of the elliptical off on the edges and stuff, just really fill it with the design. There's a lot of empty space. And what if you come in even tighter, Toby? You can like cut off and one of those things you take into the Photoshop and you alter the angle and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. And you have plenty of room because the background is completely black. You could just cut this and manipulate it. Pam, I know, is watching and said, "Oh yeah, you guys can, but I can't." You can, Pam. We've got tutorials. You can do it. You can do it. Yeah.
Tutorials out there on that one.
Yeah. All right. Nice. Thanks, Pam. And last image we're going to look at today, Lori has this Zion Park picture, which I don't know her settings at all. But what I like about this is it does feel like it's a wider angle shot, and you've put something interesting in the foreground to kind of anchor us. But I wish that there was a little bit of more room. We've got just this end of this cactus here. You included this cactus. Why not go to the bottom of it? I kind of feel like.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I could see that. And I think also maybe I would love to just know if this was a cropped version of a larger image, if there was more of the tree on the right to kind of complete the tree, might be cool. I like that you brought in that left side. I felt like that needed to be done. There is a lot to this is another one of those where there's a lot going on, but it's exposed well, and it almost has a HDR kind of look to it, but not to the degree of, it doesn't look too gimmicky to me, and because HDR can look that way. This kind of it's the colors look nice, and but I agree, it'd be nice to have a little more foreground.
Yeah, there's something, it's hard for me to tell on my monitor. It's kind of going in and out of focus, and I'm not sure why. It could just be the data feed, but it does look like it's, I don't know, kind of painterly sort of look to it, and which I'm, if that's your artistic choice, that's your choice. You did see that a lot in the older HDR stuff.
Yeah.
When you see it, it kind of reminds you of that, whether or not it is a blend of 3 images or multiple images. But it could just be that the detail and texture is brought up a bit too much and starts to make it look artificial. Toby, I liked where you were going with the crop initially, where you come in from that left side closer to the bush on the.
Yeah, I agree.
And then, but still show the top of that tree. But I would come in from the right a little bit too, and just cut off maybe another little quarter of that tree.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like if you're going to cut off some of the tree, then you probably need to cut off more than she had cut off, because it almost looks accidental to me when it's just a little bit.
That looks a little, I would still leave the whole trunk, but something like that.
Yeah. And this might also be a candidate for I don't know, that tree feels a little crooked. You always get in, trees don't always grow straight. Our very first image that we started with, mostly they were, but you might want to play with the guided transform tool here to kind of straighten some of that. Yeah. I think that's nice. And I just threw I just darkened the sky just a little bit to bring out a little more detail in the sky. And it feels like it has a little bit more color than it should.
It's hard for me to see, but Frank May put a comment. He said, "See the rabbit in the bottom of the picture. Is that in there? I don't see it, but again, it's probably my."
Are you messing with us, Frank? I don't see a rabbit. Maybe he means in the trunk. I don't know. I don't remember anybody saying they saw a rabbit there either.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. I think you're messing with us, Frank. I don't like that. All right. I can stop sharing the screen. and remove us from the Brady Bunch. All right, those of you who submitted images, thank you so much. We'll probably be back again next week, and you can submit more images. We'll be taking a look at them. We're going to dive into parts of the show where, I don't know, we discuss some different photo news, and I get these guys' opinion about it. All right, so Sony has added firmware to the A9 Mark II that allows you, the user, to decide whether or not you want the shutter to close when you take a lens off. Now, Steve, I'm going to ask you first how you feel about this.
Well, why would you not want the shutter to close if you're changing a lens?
I knew you were going to say that. And part of me might be my defensiveness, because this is a feature that we talked about back when Canon first added it with the EOS R came out. As soon as you took the lens off, the shutter mechanism shut, with the idea being it's going to block dust from it, right, everybody? And that's good, because mirrorless, we do have issues with dust. And Sony now has added that as a feature, but I think Sony's gone one better because they give you the option of doing it. And Steve, you say, why would anybody not want that?
Yeah.
What if you accidentally touch your shutter while you're changing your lens and you goof up those very fine and delicate leaf blades in there? I know it's a bit of a stretch. It's a little like, come on, are you really going to do that? But there is the potential. So on one hand, definitely, probably, I love it when I talk like this. Definitely, probably going to get more dust on your sensor, or the very small chance of accidentally touching your shutter and having to get it repaired.
Yeah, and John says kind of the same thing. Shutters are expensive to replace. Cleaning a sensor is easy.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I agree with, but I don't know. How many shutters have you ever replaced?
One. I don't know if you remember my Sony A7R II, which we're actually using to film this. Must have gotten some dust in it at some point, probably Tanzania, and slowly began to get stuck closed in colder temperatures.
Oh, no. Wow.
Yeah.
I do kind of remember that, actually. I've never, but I'm relatively new to the mirrorless world. Never had to replace a shutter. I do spend time, cleaning my sensor, and it's kind of a pain. I'm always cleaning up dust spots in my editing process. It drives me nuts. I wish my camera had a close the shutter when I switch lenses.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, you talk about Tanzania. I couldn't believe how much dust was all over my camera, inside the camera, on my images. It would be nice. I think there are certain situations where I wouldn't worry so much about it, and I might turn that feature off. But if I was in a situation like Tanzania or somewhere where there's just a ton of dust and it's inevitable, but you still want to be able to change lenses. I mean, we were telling the clients, don't change your lens while we're out, but there are times when you're like, I got to put a different lens on. I mean, I just got to do it. And I changed lenses a lot, and you can tell in my images, at least I can, until I clean them up. But
yeah. And it's for anybody who's shooting video. For photos, it's almost always cleanable. It might take time and be a pain in the butt, but when you got a dust spot in the video,
yeah, it
happens. Yeah. Steve, I'm going to put you back on the spot. The iPhone SE has been announced. This is kind of the Apple's very affordable, I was going to say alternative, but it is an iPhone, but it's their affordable iPhone. Yeah. Are we excited about this? Should mobile photographers be excited about this?
No, not necessarily. I mean, if you want to use your phone as a photography piece of equipment, a high quality photography piece of equipment, get the 11 or the 12 when it comes out in the fall. I'm not that guy. If I'm going to shoot high quality photos, I'm going to use my high quality gear. Yeah. I love using my smartphone for snapshots and stuff like that, but it's not where I want to invest my money for a camera. So for me, I'm super excited about this. I got the iPhone 10 back at the end of 2017 when it was first introduced, and I got rid of my iPhone 7 in order to get the 10. And I've regretted it ever since. Just, it was so different, and so I gave myself time to get used to Face ID and all that other stuff. I hate Face ID. I've hated it since day one. I've never gotten used to it. I know some people have. I think it's horrible. I have to look at my phone every time I want to open it. It just drives me nuts. So
you have to look at your phone every time you want to look at your phone?
Yeah. I use an iPad. It's so intuitive. I pick it up, I put it there, or a call comes in and I need to see what the email is, or a call comes in and I need to see who called, or I want to check email, and to have to pick it. I know it sounds trivial, but over the past few years, I've just regretted getting rid of my iPhone 7. So, and the other thing that I hate about the 10 is that I paid $1,150 for this thing. That drives me nuts. It's paid for free and clear and everything else, but I hate the fact that I paid almost $1,200 for a smartphone. And I use my camera equipment to take pictures. So this thing came out. It's got all the guts of it's got the A13 processor, all the guts of the iPhone 11 for speed and processing. It's got a good enough camera for what I need. It's got Touch ID back. I don't need a giant screen. I like a smaller phone. My wife and I both are getting these phones when they.
That's cool.
I'm super excited. I'm going to hold on to my iPhone 10 as a backup, but yeah, I'm one of those few people that actually wants to go backwards because I miss Touch ID, and I don't mind paying $400 for a good piece of cell phone. I'm sick and tired of paying $1,000+ for one. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah. You know what's funny is, like, I posted something a while back on Facebook that was kind of like completely opposite of that, though, because it just dawned on me one day. I was like, my phone, this is not a phone. This is a calculator, a flashlight, a calendar, a notepad, a web browser, an email, machine, a text machine, Facebook. It's so much stuff. And I was like, you know what? Actually, you're getting a lot of stuff for your money. But I see what you're saying, because it's like, well, now if you can get one for $400 that still does all that, I mean, yeah. It's much better than paying $1,150. But yeah, it just dawned on me. I was like, it's pretty incredible how much stuff we do with this one device. I'm surprised they're not more expensive.
Well, and I was really hoping, when all the rumors started about the SE making a comeback, I was hoping they'd use the iPhone 5 form factor, the old, kind of square-edged, much smaller phone. And they didn't do that. I actually, back in the day, I bought an iPhone 6, and I took it back, and I went back to my 5S that I had, because I didn't like that size. I just stick it in my pocket. I don't need a giant phone.
Yeah.
And after a while, I had to do an upgrade. So I ended up going to the 7, the 6S, and then the 7. So I waited a while.
7 was a good phone.
That was my all-time favorite phone. The only thing I missed in that was wireless charging. It didn't have that.
That's right.
And it starts to show its age over time. The battery doesn't hold charge as much. It processes slower than the newer phones. They're not as snappy. But that was my favorite phone. It was indestructible, man. That thing was awesome, and I'm so sorry I got rid of it. So this is like my chance to go back to that form factor, and it's smaller, which I really like. So it was made for me. I'm super excited about that, which sounds crazy because for a long time I was always getting the latest iPhone whenever it came out.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't sound like you're seeing any drawbacks from this.
Well, I've just gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, now we've broken $1,000 for these things. Forget it.
Yeah, and it's a law of diminishing returns at this point. I mean, the only thing I will say, this is the 11 Pro Max, and it's too big. I wish I just bought the 11 Pro, but I absolutely love the video quality, and I love the wide angle lens on it for the video. So I've actually used this for some video stuff, and it's fantastic. But if you're not using it for that kind of stuff, like, that's really, there's no difference between this and the 7 other than, like, the Face ID and maybe the battery life and things like that. So
they did say that the single lens camera on the back of the new SE is the best single lens camera that Apple's put in a phone. And
that's cool.
It'll do 4K at 60 frames per second.
Killer.
For video, and it will have portrait mode, and it'll have the ability to soften backgrounds and stuff.
That's great.
Like that. And I've seen pictures with the iPhone 11 they're phenomenal from a smartphone. They're just awesome. But I guess I'm a little more old school. I like to make large format prints and stuff like that, and I want them to withstand the test of time.
Of course, yeah.
And a cell phone, a small sensor like that, is never going to be my primary shooting device. So why am I going to spend my money there?
Absolutely.
All right. Well said, grumpy old grandpa.
In my day, we
and he's
didn't
got
have
the hat for it too. No, I love that they didn't skimp on the camera. My short take, they didn't skimp on the camera, and that price is fantastic. So,
and
it really is.
I know launching a phone right now with COVID-19 going on, it seems like terrible timing, but it's the perfect timing to launch a more budget-friendly phone that has all these features, because Touch ID, let's be honest with you, Face ID doesn't work well if you're wearing a mask.
mm-hmm.
And so having Touch ID back is something that people may really want to get back into. And until Apple, does like Samsung and figures out a way to do Touch ID under the glass, I think some people are going to want that feature back if they're going out wearing a mask. And then having something that's more budget friendly is great, because there's going to be a lot of carriers that will offer it for free with 1 or 2 year commitment, and help people out financially if they're hurting or they're out of a job.
Yeah. Nice. All right. We're gonna go back to share this. I said this type of creativity makes me weep in a good way. Check this out. So I came across this. Aaron Sullivan is mostly an outdoor landscape travel photographer. Like all of us, stuck inside these last couple of weeks, and so has gotten kind of creative. We've got tinfoil sitting on a cutting board here, a lamp and a lampshade back underneath this, and little model train figures sitting on a bamboo toothbrush, which I have the same toothbrush. You're cool, Aaron, like me. Thank you. Only because of the toothbrush. So what does this shot look like? Well, you can kind of see it on the back of the camera, but we can also go to Aaron's page and see that image like there. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
I know. So, I mean,
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And she's got lots of them. Like, hey, well, we got the ones with the pancakes. Where's the Slot Canyon one? So she's just picked up these little model train figures. These are paper bags on either side. I can
see Tanya doing something like this.
Yeah, this is totally Tanya kind of territory.
Yeah. So it just oh my gosh, we actually have the same cutting board. Oh, Aaron, we are just twins.
Kindred spirits.
Toothbrush and cutting board.
I have those same scissors. Oh my gosh.
Oh wow. Why can't, then I should be making this. Antelope Canyon, she tagged this, which I just think is fantastic. So she's on Instagram. She's linked right down below, Aaron Outdoors. And just is creating some really fun, beautiful images that if you are feeling bored, as my mom used to say, if you're bored, you're boring. There's always something you can be doing.
True. And
look, just, she's using stuff around her house with the model train figures, but you could probably order those on Amazon and get them in a week or two.
Those real pancakes, though? Please tell me those are real pancakes.
Those are good looking pancakes, too.
Okay.
Yeah. Man, I'm going to have Brenner tonight.
All right. Yeah. I'm going to have a couple more Cosmos, and then I'm going to have a Brenner too. It's great. Yeah, I'm finishing this up, so we need to start finishing the show up.
Cosmos, and we'll make a Taco Bell run. Oh, wait a second. No, we're stuck.
Speaking of stuck, I want to say something. I mentioned the portrait project, I think maybe 2 weeks ago. And I think, Steve, you were like a little like, is that really okay? That's where photographers were going around. I was thinking mostly your own neighborhood. I can take it off the screen now. And documenting or shooting people on their portraits. So maintaining a socially acceptable distance, social distancing, and then capturing pictures. And yeah, that sounded like a great thing. The professional photographers of Canada have asked their photographers to stop doing this. And they've got a couple of good points. One is there's an optics to it. If you are like going out and taking pictures of people, even if you're maintaining social distances, people are seeing you like go out to do this thing or that thing. Mm-hmm. And they might think that it's okay for them to go out too. Mm-hmm. And then what actually apparently is happening in some of these cases is, oh, so-and-so is going to come take our picture. Let's get the grandparents to come over. They'll stay further apart, but then people don't. They forget, or there's just an accidental touch, or somebody coughs. I mean, the more data that comes out, the more clear it is that this is incredibly transmissible. Yeah. And so I'd like to just correct my statement. I still think I want to carry a camera around our neighborhood on our evening dog walks, because I haven't done it yet, other than my phone, because there's cool moments. Like last night, we passed the family that was sitting out towards the end of their driveway. The kid was playing a violin, and the other kid was decorating the sidewalk. And it's just neat to see what people are doing. We've seen kids there before, but we've never seen them out like all together as a family.
Right.
And it's just neat to see these moments, and I think to document them as James is kind of doing in his town. So I think there is some value in that, but I also do think that you need to be careful. Nobody should be like booking appointments, even if they are porch sessions.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like we're trying to speed this thing along. It's kind of like if you paint something and you're like too anxious to touch it. Like, no, just like you painted the railing for the stairs or something. Like, let it dry. Let this be done. Then we'll go do these things. But I agree. And I mean, it's tempting. I kind of want to put it out to my neighborhood. Hey, maybe I'll come around and do some photos for you. And I know some people have done it, and it's probably fine, but I do think it's probably best to just, let's reel that in. Everybody's hurting right now, and we'll get back to work, but let's do it at the right time.
Well, and that's something that can easily be recreated. You know, you can easily do that when we all get back to, living our lives, and just recreate the scene. And okay, yeah, it's not taken at the exact time, but after spending 6 weeks inside, what it was like. And there's just a lot, to Toby's point. I mean, there's just a lot that we don't know about this. And also to Toby's point, David, you've mentioned this. Listen to the experts. Even the experts are coming out with new information every single day.
Absolutely.
I actually called Toby, or I texted Toby a few days after our show 2 weeks ago, when I said, hey, I want to take my camera and go to downtown Cincinnati and take some pictures of abandoned streets and stuff like that. And I told Toby, I said, I regret saying that on a public broadcast, because I don't want to encourage people to do that. And I've changed my mind over the last couple of days.
Sure.
That's a bad idea. I don't want to put myself in harm's way. I don't want to risk getting an infection and then coming home to my family, when we should just be hunkered down for the next, couple of weeks and get through this thing and move on. So
absolutely,
I want to put that out there too, is that I had said that, I made mention of that, and I really want to backpedal. And, I regret saying that, because I don't want to encourage people to do that. And I think it's great that Pro Photographers of Canada have come out with a statement about that, causing us to sort of think about it. It's just, you only get one chance at this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get through it, man. This is a little bit of my soapbox, but data's changing every day. I've got a friend on Facebook who has posted all these "I told you so" articles and stuff, like lately, about posts that I made on March 6th or March 12th. Like between March 6th and March 15th, new data was coming out every hour.
Yeah.
Urging people to support your local restaurant and bar. Don't just go to the big box places and stuff. And then, okay, hindsight's always 20/20, right? So,
yeah, I've had to eat a lot of words and admitted that, like I was wrong at the beginning. I was just like a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is just media hype, and this is going to blow over. It's just the next big thing to be sensationalized." But yeah, clearly that's not the case, and it's okay. It's okay to admit you're wrong. It's okay to admit you were wrong. Like, I don't know why people feel like they have to hold on to some staunch, pride. So yeah, but I think in this case, yeah, it's really unfortunate. I spoke with a photographer today that she assists me on a lot of the weddings that we shoot, and I actually got asked to shoot a wedding at the end of June, and I'm like, yeah, except we'll just have to see. It's very tentative. So I'm excited at the idea that there might be some work, but at the same time, I know that that the end of June will be here before we know it. So, and I don't know that we're going to be ready for that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The good thing is we are all in this together. And so this isn't like, people aren't understanding of schedule changes and working with each other. And we're all it's going to be messy, but everybody's going to work with each other to figure out how to move forward as best as possible.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want a couple discussions about Instagram. Just kind of touch on these a little bit. And I did link the show notes down below the video. So if you're next time you refresh, they'll be there. my friend Hugh of Three Blind Elephants and Mice, I think is his channel's name. I know him from Sony and Canon press events. He's a really, really good guy, really thoughtful. He put out an interesting video called Use Instagram in 2020 to Become a Better Photographer. And then in big capital letters, engage. And he said, yeah, he did just watch the Picard series, Star Trek Picard series. It's about a 20-minute long video. It's got a table of contents if you're interested. But there are some good pro arguments in there for really kind of being active on Instagram. And I think there are some great comments. He doesn't get too many trolls, it seems, because he's so thoughtful. And I don't know, just the way he presents his work, the people who say, well, here's my opinion, but they say it in such a nice way that it's worth reading some of the comments. And so that's linked right down below this video. I'd encourage you, if you have any interest in Instagram, to go watch. But these next two stories might make you pause, and that is Instagram and the copyright issue of embedding. So as you know, or maybe you didn't, when you post to Instagram, of course you are acknowledging, or anytime you sign up, you're acknowledging their terms of service that says they have the right to share your image worldwide. And that's not really as scary as it sounds, because, well, you're putting it into their service and then they have to share it out with the world for the people to see it. And they have the ability, or people have the ability, to embed from Instagram onto their own web pages. Mashable, which is kind of like a news aggregator website, embedded this photographer's image. They had actually first asked her if they could include it in their work for like $10 or something. She declined. They went ahead and just used Instagram's embed, and then she sued them for copyright. She lost. Wow. The judge said, this is an allowable action that Instagram provides in a public system. Basically, I'm really Cosmo paraphrasing, that you when you put your image into this, you give up the rights of, not letting people use it, not letting people use it. And Petapixel has a follow-up article that says Instagram, the easy solution for this is for Instagram to allow us to say we don't allow embeds. And then each user could. Whether or not Instagram will do that, I don't know. I don't know how often embedding is used. We used to use it on my channel when we ran the weekly Instagram challenges. Then we would nicely embed all of the winners on the page. I never asked, but they also were participating in a contest where that was known. So I don't feel like any of those people were unhappy about that. And on one hand, embedding allows more people to see it. Like everybody who came to that Mashable page is going to see it. But if this photographer had declined, then I feel that's her right. So just something to be thoughtful about. I don't know if you guys want to add any thoughts to that.
I don't know. Coming from the world of music, where the copyright issues were, especially when Napster and all that, back in the early 2000s, late 90s and everything, when digital sharing of music was becoming a big issue, the record labels were freaking out because now all this revenue was going out the window. People actually had to go to a store and buy an actual round disc that had the music on it. And that's how they got the music. And it's almost crazy to think that that's how we got, media and content at one point. But I think the cynical side of me just said, fight all you want. But at the end of the day, if somebody wants to share digital information, they can share digital information. It's ones and zeros, and it gets passed around. And, so I'm not saying we don't fight these fights, but I think when you sign up for Instagram or anything like that, you got to know that this is part of what it's going to be. And I mean, on my website, I've got pretty high resolution images of, the photos I've shot. You could take a screenshot of that and you could blow it up and do whatever you want with it. I mean, you really could. And I know that. We all know that. So I don't know. I think it's just, it's almost a futile fight at some point. But I am grateful for people in Congress and organizations like the PPA that are at least trying to fight for as much as they can. But I just don't think we're going to, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. Steve, you want to add anything?
No, I mean, just on a macro level. And then my world of knowing any professional photographers outside of what we do is pretty small. So take it with a grain of salt. But the guys that I know that actually make good money as professional photographers full time, they don't really have, unless you're a social media influencer like the way Toby's channel is, they don't really have much when it comes to social media.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, if you're busy enough and you really want to make top dollar from your quality images, then you just don't share them on the web much. They're for specific clients and they're intended for that purpose. It's like all my real estate stuff. You know, you see very little of that. I put some of it on my own website, but I don't put much of it out on social media. I don't want to. Technically, they're not really my images. I've done them for a client. The client has purchased them from me, and as far as I'm concerned, they own those images, and then I keep them around as a backup. So I don't worry about it too much. You know, I share some of my stuff out there, but I figure if I'm really making a full-time stab at selling my landscape photos for top dollar and stuff, you're not going to see them posted on Instagram and Facebook. You're going to have to go to my website where they're protected, and then you're going to have to contact me for that.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of the stuff that's out there is just people wanting notoriety and likes and try to engage, if you will.
It's true. And I'm so guilty of that. I mean, it feels good when people tell you great job, great photo. And, you know, we all, if we're honest, we like that sort of praise. And so we put stuff out there sometimes hoping to get it. And I've done a lot of that. But there are times when I get cynical and just think, why am I going to share this? Like, what does it matter? It's just more clutter in someone's feed, and everyone's vying for that attention. And you're right. I a lot of times I've just taken cues over the years from the people that I admire, the people that are the pros that I've watched and really seen flourish in their careers. I just try to do a lot of the things they do. So one of those is like watermarking. I don't watermark my images because I don't know any pros that watermark. Well, I shouldn't say I don't know any, but very few of the pros that I know watermark their images. So they might post something on Instagram and there it is. There's that photo. And I don't know. I just kind of go, well, if that's what they do, that's what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's a bad way to live, but I'm like, it's working for them. So
yeah. That goes out there in terms of just quality images and financial success. You don't even know who they are. They're too busy working for their clients to.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And there are people on Instagram and Facebook that have 500,000 followers. And I guarantee you, they're not really making much of a living as a photographer. They just built up a following, you know? So.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Good. All right, I think we're going to wrap this show up. One thing that we wanted to add this week, and I just sprung this guy on you guys a couple days ago, so it's okay if you don't have one ready to go. But I listened to a couple different podcasts where at the end they do a pick, something that they like in their life currently, and it can be very varied. And I listened to like a tech podcast and a science podcast. These aren't photography ones, and I just enjoy hearing what these people are into, completely outside their realm of, you know, kind of what they're known for, talking head. Like, you come to this show mostly for photography, a little bit for teasing me about pink drinks. So I just thought, I sprung this on these guys and said, do you have a pick? I'll start real quick. It's totally silly, and it is somewhat photography related. It does, I think, leave out iPhone people. I don't know if this app is available. It is the Google Arts and Culture app. And it has tons and tons of artwork in it, you know, from Mona Lisa to Monet's, you know, lily pads and all of this gorgeous stuff. But what they recently added, and you can do this in Photoshop, but what they recently added is a feature where you can give them, through the app, a photo, and it will turn it into a style of like Edward Munch's. Is that how you say his name? The Scream, Edward Munch. Scream, or what's another one here? The Andy Warhol self-portrait, or Vincent van Gogh's self-portrait. So I fed it this. Can I show? Where do I show you the original picture I start with? Maybe right here. The other day I came up from downstairs and Archer poked his head back out of the curtains, like so. Can you see that? He looked like a nun. I thought that was hilarious. So I can feed it this picture, and then I can choose the style to switch to, like Edward Munch's The Scream. And then instantly there it is.
Huh.
Totally silly, but that's my first pick
Cool.
to share. And you can check that out. It's at the Google Arts and Culture. And again, definitely an Android app that allows you to just pick from your pictures. They might have an iPhone app too. I don't know. Either of you guys have something you want to share?
We've been going to a lot of different restaurants and no, I'm kidding. We haven't been doing that. I've been watching more like nature shows lately.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sucker for those, and my family is like, oh gosh, here we go again. But I love watching. I'm just fascinated as a photographer. I'm fascinated at what these people go out and shoot and just how they shoot. The photos and the video.
Mm-hmm.
But then I love to watch like behind the scenes. That's what I really love, is to see how did they do that. I was watching today the Disney Penguins. If you have Disney Plus with one of your TV devices,
Mm-hmm.
they have Disney Penguins, which is a really cool documentary. But then they have the making of, and we've all of us have been to Antarctica, the three of us. But my gosh, seeing how these guys had to go to Antarctica, it's unbelievable. The amount of time it took them to get where they had to be, with tons, like literally tons of camera equipment. I mean, it's fascinating.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. So I'm into that kind of stuff.
Cool. All right.
Carr, my mic went out on me for some reason for a minute there. Right when you started, you said you've been going to a lot of restaurants, or
I was joking. Yeah, I said we've been going to a lot of restaurants. I was joking.
I thought maybe you, and when it came back on, I was like, oh, maybe he was going and watching a lot of restaurant documentaries or something like that.
No. I'm sorry, my dry sense of humor got
I've been a real concert goer lately.
Yeah.
Down in the mosh pit.
Yeah, out to the movies and stuff. It's pretty cool. What have I been up to lately? No, I don't watch any daytime television. To me, I don't know why it's always felt like this since I was a kid. The only time I watched TV during the day was if I was homesick. And so it's got this real kind of depressing sort of connotation to me. Toby, I mean, you and I have roomed together for years on all these tours and stuff. And we turned the TV on like one time to watch the Olympics, and that was at night. But
yeah.
It's given me a chance to actually catch up on a lot of shows. My wife and I get a chance to catch up on a lot of shows. We'll kind of turn something on in the early evening, and we just got done binge watching. I got back into Ozark. I had kind of given up on that maybe a year ago, about halfway through season 2, and people were talking about season 3. I saw that on social media, so we went back and we got totally hooked again. We just got done watching that. We watched. I went through Mad Men again for the second time. It was like one of my all-time favorite shows ever, from start to finish. And so it's been just a cool time for me to kind of watch a bunch of shows that I've been wanting to see or people talk about, and I'm kind of out of the loop.
It's cool.
Next one I really want to get into, though, is Yellowstone.
The Kevin Costner.
I stream everything. And so the only way that I've found to legally watch it is to buy the episode. So I think my plan is to like sign up for some kind of cable service or provider for like a free week or two, and then binge watch it and then cancel it. Because I don't want to spend $25 for a TV show that I'm going to watch one time.
Exactly.
And then there's 2 seasons, so really it's a $50 investment because I'm sure it's good.
Yeah, cool. All right. So was it just TV in general, or Yellowstone?
Yeah, just getting a chance to see shows that everybody else seems to watch, and I feel like I don't get a chance to see them.
Yeah. The forced slower pace has been a blessing.
It really is. I know. I'm like, savor this, like I know it's hard, but like, when else are we going to have like permission to just sit around and like not be productive?
Yep.
Yeah,
true. Very true. All right. On that note, let's spend the next week of being mildly productive. Let's strike a balance there. And when we come back next week, I'm assuming you guys will be available. I'd love to talk about gear that has changed your life. That's something that DP Review has been publishing videos out on. I think it's a really interesting topic. We all have that 1 or 2 pieces of gear that we've come across in our kind of careers or lives that have really probably had a serious impact on us. And we'll talk a little bit more about that next show. David Carr, Steve Scurich, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Always a pleasure.
Chat room, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I love reading your comments. They make it much better. I'm going to be smarter and actually be able to bring up some of your comments onto the screen again next time. I've kind of made that messy over here, and I'm going to do it over here instead. Cross wires, less cross wires. Yeah, we'll get it all back together. All right, everybody. Thanks so much again. Until next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Yeah.